Greetings Internet, and welcome back for another early mornings presentation. And today I'm going to be doing another check out my junk video. Now, instead of doing my usual Ninja Turtles shtick, today I'm going to be talking about something that's not, but very similar to the Turtles. If you can see in front of me, I'm going to be talking about my collection of Toxic Crusaders action figures. Now, as previously mentioned, they're not Ninja Turtles, but in the toy collecting community, these guys get confused for Ninja Turtles fairly often. There are actually some Ninja Turtle figures, like Muckman and Worm, that get confused for these figures. So let's jump right into it, shall we? So these guys had a similar premise to the Turtles, in that these guys were superheroes who were mutated by some kind of toxic sludge. And the hero of this series, the main hero I should say, was this little fellow right here. This guy was known as Toxie. Now this guy was originally just some nerd who got mutated by the sludge and decided that he was going to, instead of just taking it lying down, he decided he was going to do something with his newfound mutant powers, and he was going to go, save the environment and try and save the world. Then he got teamed up with a bunch of other odd mutants, like No Zone over here, who for some reason is like an aviator pilot with a huge, and I mean huge, proboscis. Check out that schnoz. Another one of the heroes from the series was this guy over here, Doubleheader, who for some reason is like this totally cool surfer dude, and then we've got this green scientist man over here. I was trying to go for German, but for some reason I jumped immediately into Scottish, and I don't know why. Another one of the heroes that I happen to have a figure of is this guy right here. I believe his name is Major Disaster. Now, I'm going to apologize right now because I don't know too much about the show itself, but I know that these guys, this whole series, spawned from a pretty gritty, gory, horror-ish superhero series that was called the Toxic Avenger. And the only character from this entire line that I'm aware of that actually spawned from that series is Toxie himself. And in that series of movies, it was basically the same premise, only they weren't, he wasn't trying to save the environment or anything. He was just, like I was saying before, some dork who was getting picked on hardcore, and then somehow wound up in a vat of toxic waste that mutated him into Toxie, the Toxic Avenger. So I got myself distracted going off on that. And as I already said, these are the heroes. And these are the only villain action figures I have thus far. We have our main villain, with one of the, I have to admit, one of the coolest supervillain names ever for a 90s cartoon, Dr. Killimov. Yes, Dr. Killimov. This four-armed mutant right here. And then we have, Bonehead, I think. It's either Bonehead or Skullface or something like that. And then we have, I'm completely unprepared for this. Toxo Squad. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what this guy's name is. But essentially, here's a good way to put it. Shredder, Foot Soldiers. These guys were the Foot Soldiers of this series. And I feel like a complete and total noob. I should know what his name is. I got everyone else's name pretty much. Radiation Ranger? I think he's one of the Radiation Rangers. Excuse me just a moment. If you heard that beep, the oven is ready for my breakfast to be inserted into it. So I'll be right back. Hop, 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 hop. Hop, hop, hop. I'm back. So yeah, Radiation Rangers. I'm not 100% on that, but that's what I'm going with, because I've wasted enough time trying to remember who he is. There were 2 more figures. I believe it was only 2 more figures in this range. Actually 3, but 2 more in this 6-inch scale. There was 1 more villain. I can't remember his name right now, but he was this little chubby scientist guy who had like a peg leg, and he had like all these wires and things coming off of his body. And there was a mutant dog character that I believe they just called Junkyard or Dog Pound. Then again, I could be thinking of a wrestler, you know, name-wise. But I believe he was called Junkyard Dog, or just Junkyard. And in a larger scale, and I don't know if this was an official release or if this was a bootleg or a knockoff or something, but as y'all might know with the Ninja Turtles, they had the little figures and then they had the big ones. And well, for this series, they actually managed to squeak out a large size Toxie. The thing would have been about like yay, I believe. I've never actually seen one in person. I've only seen them, you know, in pictures on the internet. But they were pretty big. Now, another thing you'll notice about my little collection here is that like none of them have any accessories, except for Nozone, who, for some unknown reason, wound up keeping a hold of his shield over here. And that's because these guys, it's hard to come across their weapons. And while I was lucky to find as many as I did, as quickly as I did. Because you see, these guys are an obscure toy line, as you may or may not be aware of. And they were part of that 90s trend of taking like really mature movies and turning them into children's cartoons. Case in point, RoboCop, which got its own little 90s cartoon spin-off. And I know there are more. Rambo. Rambo was another one that got a cartoon, but I think that was back in the 80s that happened. But I'm getting slightly off topic talking about that. Anyway, these guys are an obscure toy line, and it's hard to come across these figures. At least it has been for me. But I got really lucky and managed to find all these guys together in one group. And one regret I have, one major regret, was at one point I actually had a Toxie like this in slightly better condition, who came with a bunch of accessories. Like, the Toxie I had was near complete, and he had Doubleheader's surfboard. He had this like jetpack thing that would attach onto Nozone here, along with another accessory from him I can't quite recall right this second. He had... who else did he have accessories for? He also had accessories for that tubby villain I was talking about. Like, he had at least one of the accessories for most of the figures in the line. And I sold him on eBay with all of his accessories, and at the time I didn't realize how hard it was to track down accessories for the Toxic Avengers, so I was like, I don't really need this in my life anymore. I'm just gonna put this out there on the internet and let them have it. And I just have to go, why was I so stupid? But hindsight is 20/20, and this is where I am now, with a collection of horribly incomplete figures. You could say that was a major disaster on my part. Huh? Huh? Puns? Huh? Wordplay? So, yeah. I just thought I would share that with you guys today, and, you know, just show off more of my junk. Oh, so something not related to this that happened yesterday. We apparently had a tornado almost touch down in my town. Imagine my surprise when I'm getting ready to take my sister home for the evening, because, well, we usually hang out on Sundays. By the way, today's Monday when I'm recording this. And while we were hanging out, I was getting ready to take her home, because it was, you know, end of the day. I had to get in bed, get myself ready for today. And all of a sudden, our phones start going off with one of that alert thing. I saved a screen grab of it. Give me just a moment, ladies and gentlemen, and you can see what we got to experience around 5:30 last night. No, wrong button. Screenshots. There we go. So we were just, you know, hanging out, having a good time, and all of a sudden, that pops up. Not sure how well y'all can read it. Our phones just start doing that emergency emergency alert, extreme threat alert, April 14th, 2019, 5:29 p.m. Tornado warning in this area till 6 p.m. Edit, take shelter now. Check local media, NWS, etc., etc. So we went from, okay, you ready to go, to wah, wah. Okay, everyone, let's get in the bathroom. Which was kind of awkward. But thankfully, we just got really high winds out here. The rain splattered against the windows pretty hardcore. And we had a little bit of hail at one point, at least that's what I think it was. Pardon me, that was a slight yawn. But yeah, everything turned out fine in our area. Though over by my grandparents' place, apparently like the top of a tree fell off and smashed this person's fence and took out part of their roof, I believe. Yeah, I didn't get to see much of it, but while I was taking my sister home like 2 hours later, I, you know, made the point for myself and herself to drive over in that direction to check on our grandparents, and lo and behold, that was going on. There's police tape all across the road, so you couldn't actually go that way. It was a literal mess. But everything turned out fine. Oh, another thing I should mention is when the winds got really, really high, the lights kept flickering. We would just be sitting there in the bathroom waiting, and then flick, flick. And it's like, uh-oh. And then a couple times, pew, total blackout. Then about a minute later, whoop, came back on, flicker, flicker. It got pretty dicey there for a couple minutes, and we honestly thought that something really bad was coming when the lights started flickering and we heard the hail against the windows. Excuse me again, that's another yawn. That's two. But like I was saying, we came out fine, everything's fine, we survived. And thankfully, as far as I'm aware, no tornadoes actually touched down. The alert was just being like, there's extreme heavy weather coming. Get to shelter, now! Which we did, and we survived. We came out on top. So, with all that being said, now that I'm hunched over like Larry King or some kind of talk show host, I think I'm going to wrap this up here because I'm getting to the point where I'm just rambling. So, thank you all so much for coming back and enjoying my content. I do truly and greatly appreciate it. If you like what you've seen here today, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon to be notified of future uploads once you are subscribed. And also, if you have any interest at all in the Toxic Crusaders cartoon, it's right here on YouTube. The people at Troma, who made the original Toxic Avenger, let me try that again, series, actually put the entire cartoon up onto YouTube along with all their Toxic Avenger movies. So yeah, go check them out. Just in the search bar over there, over there, I'm gonna say. In the search bar over there, just type in Toxic Avenger cartoon, boop. You'll come across a lot of people's uploads of the intro, which in and of itself is kinda eh. Or what am I saying? The intro gives basically the entire backstory of Toxie here in just a few brief seconds. It's not bad. Especially if you like 90s cheese. Like, you know, the Ninja Turtles cartoon, which for some reason I thought my DVD set was over there. No, bonehead move on my part. Bonehead. Alright, so before this episode turns into a double header, I'm gonna have to kill him off right now. So, again, thank you all so much for coming back and enjoying my content. At least I hope you're enjoying this. Do truly and greatly appreciate it. And with all of that happy hullabaloo and horse hockey out of the way, this is Oxleymations saying, Cowabunga, and I'll see y'all next time. Later.